Last week in Michigan politics, the federal government shutdown continues, and the impacts are only growing here in West Michigan. We hear from people around the region about how it's impacting them and how it could impact you. Plus, your voice, your vote. We take you through some of the latest election updates with another round of local elections just days away. And at the state capitol, lawmakers consider bills on a number of consequential fronts, as some also call on the state to release its full voter rolls to the federal government. We have all the stories from Lansing. I'm Josh Alburtus, and this is your 13 on Your Side Rundown. And we begin with updates from Capitol Hill. The federal government is still shut down, and it's continuing to loom over Michigan taxpayers. On November 1st, millions of Americans, including over 1 million in Michigan, are expected to lose food assistance and other benefits as money runs out. Negotiations to end the shutdown seem to remain at a standstill. Democrats are holding firm on a demand to extend Obamacare healthcare subsidies before approving a budget. Republicans want the government to reopen before with what they've called clean continuing short-term funding. 42 million Americans receive SNAP benefits for food.
It's time to call on people to donate, absolutely, and time to call on government officials to get back to work.
According to what national outlets are reporting to be a memo from the USDA, emergency funds cannot be used under current circumstances. More on that later in the show. And all the while, folks like one woman 13 on Your Side spoke with are signaling they're scrambling to figure out what to do.
Well, I'm extremely angry.
That's the feeling for Chelsea Mikowski as she figures out how to keep her family afloat.
I know so many families that are going to be the same way. It makes me so angry. I don't understand. Like, why would they do this to all of us?
Mikowski says she hasn't been able to find a flexible job while acting as a caregiver for her daughter, Athena.
She is 11 years old, and she is also a level 3 autistic with multiple delays in all kinds of areas. She has very limited speech.
And Chelsea said Athena also has what's known as ARFID.
Avoidant food intake disorder, and it practically makes it impossible to try new foods.
Chelsea said they rely on the federal SNAP program for food.
We get 530 and she eats about 500, so I get 30 for myself for the month.
But now, the state's Health and Human Services Department announcing a temporary pause for SNAP benefits directed by a service of the USDA, and a result of a funding lapse amidst the federal government shutdown.
They did not give us any kind of safety net, any kind of good warning, and now a bunch of families that need that are going to suffer.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill seemingly nowhere near a funding deal. Democrats holding out for extension of subsidies under the Affordable Care Act to prevent what they say would be skyrocketing costs.
Healthcare costs are only going up, and they will continue to accelerate if we do not act.
Republicans looking to pass short-term continuation funding.
We can open up the government as soon as the Senate Democrats agree to pass the legislation that's already been passed simply to keep the government open.
But amidst the stalemate, Mikowski feels those tasked with making the decisions don't understand what will happen if funding does not continue.
I should not have to fight this hard to get my daughter food, to not starve.
And this week, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel joined officials in a number of states in suing the U.S. Department of Agriculture after it directed states to temporarily pause SNAP benefits come November. They cite in the lawsuit what they say are billions of dollars in contingency funding to keep the program going, and she argues this suspension directive was illegal. Local food bank and pantry leaders have spoken out at length about the difficulty people are already facing. Leaders connected with the United Way were also at Nessel's event at the Community Food Club in Grand Rapids on Thursday, saying these services are not meant to be a substitute for SNAP. They are putting together an emergency food fund, we were told, but there's no set timeline, essentially, on how long they could offer things at the same level without SNAP also being available to the people who need it and qualify. Nessel spoke more there about the lawsuit being argued.
We pay taxes to the federal government here in Michigan, both individually and through businesses. It goes to the federal government, comes back to us in the way of programs like SNAP. This is our money, and we just want the federal government to give us our money that was congressionally appropriated to the SNAP program.
If benefits do get paused at the beginning of the month in the absence of a deal, we also asked Nessel what the timeline may be for a court action like this. They're seeking an injunction to stop the USDA's directive. Arguments were going on right then, she said Thursday. If successful, it could vary in terms of how quickly money would begin to flow once paused. But as we mentioned earlier, the USDA had already reportedly seemed to reject the premise of that argument. National outlets have reported on what they say was a memo from the USDA last week that said the contingency fund was only available to supplement regular benefits. And because appropriation for those regular benefits no longer exists, that fund would not be available to support regular benefits. Local food assistance groups say they are worried about how they'll afford groceries in the weeks ahead. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson spoke with the Salvation Army in Kent County. They tell her the impact would be immediate and the demand is climbing fast.
It's going to be really difficult for the people that we serve. Normally, we're helping people that get SNAP benefits, but they don't quite stretch to help feed their families for that entire month.
With the government shutdown in its fourth week, the USDA says the well has run dry. No new SNAP benefits will go out November 1st, leaving millions, including families here in West Michigan, without help to buy food. The Salvation Army is bracing for the surge while continuing its mission to meet human needs.
We don't get money directly from the government to operate. We're a nonprofit. We survive solely on donations from individuals. Every dollar that's donated to us, 82 cents, goes directly back into our community to help people in need.
Director Kathy Blackburn says their food pantry runs on just $23,000 a year, serving about 400 families a month. That money comes entirely from community donations, and with demand expected to spike, every dollar will matter even more.
This morning, we've already had 25 families come through the door. Normally, we see 400 families in a month. The nervousness, the panic, if you will, has already started to impact people.
Nationwide, companies are stepping up to support food banks strained by the SNAP funding freeze. DoorDash has launched an emergency food response, delivering 1 million free meals through its Project Dash partners. More than 300 food banks and pantries nationwide. The company is also waiving delivery fees for thousands of grocery orders from SNAP recipients. In a statement, Max Reddick, Vice President and Global Head of Public Policy at DoorDash, said, quote, "No one should go hungry in America, period." He went on to say, quote, "Fighting hunger is core to our mission at DoorDash, and we're stepping up alongside leading grocers and retailers to help bridge the gap." To meet the growing need locally, the Salvation Army is stocking up, easing limits, and calling on the community for support, saying every donation counts.
Dollars are really the best way, the most efficient way, because when we buy in bulk, we can buy in a really more cost-effective way. We need everybody that can give to help give right now, because it's going to be really, really tough for those people who are in need.
And several organizations in West Michigan are preparing to help those who would lose their SNAP benefits. United Way and the Fair Food Network are offering resources to keep food on the table and support the community. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson also has a look at what they're doing.
We are seeing a significant increase in call volume to 211, probably about triple what we normally see related to food events.
With the federal government shutdown halting November SNAP benefits, thousands of Michigan families are calling for help. And United Way says their phones haven't stopped ringing. The nonprofit's 211 helpline is connecting people to emergency food assistance, housing help, and local resources across the state.
With the knowledge of the potential cuts coming, that's also increasing calls for other reasons, because it's causing people to have to decide, Do I pay for food, or do I pay for rent, or do I pay for my utilities? So it's definitely putting stress on people that are already struggling.
United Way is partnering with local food banks and other agencies to expand pantry hours and outreach before the federal pause takes effect.
We want to be able to let our pantries do what they do best, and that's serve community, and we can do what we do best, which is raise funds and get them to where they're most needed.
At the same time, Fair Food Network is taking immediate action to help families stretch what's left on their EBT cards. Their Double Up Food Bucks program matches SNAP dollars spent on fruits and vegetables, and this month they're going even further.
I can't imagine a worse scenario than being worried about being able to feed my children. Not having those dollars circulating in the local economy will have a real impact on retailers.
Fair Food Network is temporarily removing its $20 daily earning cap and letting families keep Double Up credits through the end of the year. They're also adding frozen fruits and vegetables to what families can buy and launching Double Up Bonus Bucks, a one-time $40 voucher for produce to help fill the gap while SNAP is paused.
Our hope is to try to help people kind of bridge this gap, through November, but because we have limited supplies, we can't say exactly when it will end, but we're happy to offer these additional supports while supplies last.
For those in need of food assistance, you can call 211 or visit doubleupfoodbucks.org to find participating stores and farmers markets. As both groups work to keep families fed, they say this effort is about more than food. It's about stability and community.
People that are in need are not in need in just one area. So losing SNAP benefits just further exacerbates the issue of, now do I pay daycare costs, or do I stay home from work because I can't afford daycare, because I have to buy food? Everything is connected.
And on Thursday, the state announced it will be providing some assistance to food banks through last-minute funding just days before the SNAP benefits were set to pause. Governor Gretchen Whitmer announced that Michigan will provide $4.5 million to the Food Bank Council of Michigan. The new funding will help feed people in all 83 counties, we're told, and provide food delivery to those who can't drive to their local food bank. The funding is coming from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And many who rely on SNAP benefits for food have a lot of questions about what happens on November 1st, and MDHHS is answering some. If you have money on your EBT card before the pause starts November 1st, you can still use it. You will get November's SNAP benefits loaded onto your card after the shutdown ends. Once the USDA notifies state health leaders, they can send out the benefits. And you can still apply for and change your SNAP benefits during the shutdown. We have a link to even more answers from MDHHS on our website, 13onyourside.com. The federal government shutdown's far-reaching effects include military families. 13 on Your Side's Peter Elliott spoke to a military spouse about her worries as the shutdown continues.
That's one of us.
Sharon Kozak was born into a military family.
I have been surrounded by military life for a very long time.
She also married into one.
And that is my husband when he graduated from boot camp.
It's a lifestyle that can come with challenges.
Strain, stress.
But she wasn't ready for this one.
I don't know that anyone can really prepare for a government shutdown,
which has left service members and their families in limbo.
This is one of the more stressful situations that he's been in.
Since the shutdown began on October 1st, military members received a paycheck on the 15th, though many reported discrepancies. The White House says it has scraped together enough funding to cover payroll for the troops on Friday.
There is, worry about the future.
But with no end in sight to the shutdown, further payments are not certain.
We're approaching Thanksgiving, a big time of travel where our families might not be able to go home. Christmas, another holiday where people would go home buying gifts for kids.
A demographic that often has little to fall back on.
Military families don't really have a lot in savings because of constant moving. Military spouses often have a hard time getting jobs because, you're moving so frequently.
Pair that with looming cuts to food assistance programs.
1 in 5 military families utilize SNAP or WIC. With not having pay and not having that, some of our families are in a bigger bind than usual.
Those who serve needing support.
Even though we're a strong, quiet community, we're also a community that needs people to see what we are experiencing and for somebody to care.
And the ongoing shutdown is also worrying educators who benefit from the federal Head Start programs that provide education opportunities to children before kindergarten. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson spoke with Head Start for Kent County about the possible impacts as the shutdown continues.
To think that the care you currently have might have to suddenly end, there's not a lot of options for you to find something different in a quick amount of time.
Across Michigan, nearly 3,000 children could lose access to Head Start if the government shutdown continues past November 1st. Head Start for Kent County Executive Director Madonna Princer says 9 programs across the state are facing immediate impacts because their new grant funding can't be dispersed during the shutdown.
That accounts for a little over 3,000 children in our state and almost 1,000 staff that are going to be directly impacted at the end of this week.
Head Start provides early education, meals, and support for children from birth to age 5. In Kent County, Princer says their funding runs through December, but the situation is hitting close to home.
We are a January 1 grantee, so unlike some of our other Michigan counterparts, that impact is not immediate, meaning like after tomorrow, like the November 1 grantees are, but still it is top of mind for us.
Princer says if the shutdown stretches into winter, even Kent County could be affected, with potential layoffs and classroom closures.
When a program grant ends, then they don't have the funds to continue to operate potentially. They don't really even have the authority to continue to run. So when that happens, it does impact the community as a whole.
She says that kind of disruption would be devastating for parents already struggling to find affordable childcare. She encourages families who are or may be impacted to reach out for help.
We highly recommend that they reach out to us, and we will help connect them with any resources that we can that are in the community.
Social Security benefits are going up slightly next year. In 2026, Social Security recipients will get 2.8% more per month. Despite the increase, a lot of seniors say the yearly adjustments haven't kept up with their rising costs. Next year's increase is higher than the 2.5% cost of living adjustment recipients got this year. However, it was a lot less than the increases they got in prior years when inflation was spiking during and after the pandemic. The annual adjustment is based on inflation, which has eased after hitting a roughly 4-decade high in 2022. At the state capitol, lawmakers in Lansing are looking at cracking down on a major challenge for the state's marijuana industry, the illegal market. But it comes after lawmakers already put in place what many feel was a whole nother challenge. Coming up, what they're considering and why it's causing so much debate. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, has denied the state of Michigan's appeal for multiple federal disaster aid programs. It was requested after the ice storm in March that caused widespread damage across northern Michigan. FEMA initially denied requests to fund permanent repairs to damaged utilities and help residents with housing and disaster-related losses. The state of Michigan filed an appeal to those denials on August 25th. In a letter earlier this week, FEMA officials reaffirmed the denial. The Michigan State Police says FEMA is still considering the appeal for funding for long-term projects to reduce future risks. Michigan families might soon see higher electricity bills, and some experts say aging coal plants are to blame. A federal order is keeping plants like the J.H. Campbell facility in Ottawa County running months past their planned shutdown. 13 on your side's Kiara Patterson spoke with one expert earlier this week.
It's the worst possible time for us to keep coal plants open that are going to be more costly for our families.
Michigan families are being warned of higher energy bills as a federal order keeps aging coal plants open, including the J.H. Campbell plant in Ottawa County, which stayed running past its planned shutdown in May. The Department of Energy issued the order to keep it operating, a move Sergio Sierra Reyes with the Urban Core Collective says is already driving up cost.
Even Consumers Energy, they had agreed to close it, and they had planned for closing it, and so to this day the plant remains open.
He says Consumers Energy is following the federal order, but each week the plant stays open adds millions that could hit consumers' bills.
Families are struggling. There's inflation is rampant. People are struggling to pay their bills. Businesses are struggling also. If we keep coal plants open, they're more expensive to operate. They're aging now. And also, it's not what community wants.
In a June SEC Consumers Energy filing, it says keeping the J.H. Campbell plant running under a federal order cost the company $29 million between May and June. I reached out to Consumers Energy. In a statement, spokesperson Brian M. Wheeler said, quote, Consumers Energy disclosed in regulatory filing this summer the net financial impact to keep the Campbell plant open was $29 million from May 23rd through June. Consistent with the prior federal order, costs to operate the Campbell plant will be shared by customers across the Midwest electric grid region, not borne solely by Consumers Energy customers. Cira Reyes says he's concerned about the potential cost to consumers. His team is challenging the order and urging Michigan leaders to shift toward lower-cost renewable energy.
There's other sources of energy that are available now, like wind and solar are good examples. They're viable, they're more cost-effective, and also they would create a shift to an economy that we can all benefit from.
He's also urging residents to reach out to state and local representatives, asking them to stop future rate hikes and protect affordable energy.
I encourage them to, connect with their elected officials. Also connect with us. We want to hear from people about their experience. We submit their comments to the Michigan Public Service Commission.
The DOE has argued the order to keep the plant open ensures reliability. At the state capitol, Michigan House Republicans are asking Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson to share the state's complete voter rolls with the Trump administration. Michigan is one of several states being sued by the federal Justice Department over its alleged refusal to share voter rolls. That include personal information, including Social Security numbers. At a hearing this week in the House Election Integrity Committee, the resolution calling for Benson, a Democrat, to share the unredacted registration list was approved along party lines. State lawmakers are also considering new plans to crack down on illegal marijuana sales, but some wonder how it could further impact an industry already set to take a hit, they feel, from the new state budget. They first took up these bills late last week, and we bring you more on the debate. What had been one of Michigan's fastest growing industries is now facing what one state official called big challenges.
Two of those big challenges had to deal with the issue of these large illicit grows.
Marijuana first legalized recreationally in Michigan 7 years ago, but lawmakers late last week meeting to consider new legislation meant to crack down on the black market.
And so Michigan has really become a lot of ways sort of a central location for illicit operations because the penalties for illicit activity are so low here.
Changes would include updating penalties and possession limits and expanding the scope of the state's cannabis regulatory agency. But the effort comes in the shadow of the new state budget that included a hefty new tax on wholesale marijuana.
We don't want a black market, but that's also why we didn't want an increase in the tax, or maybe I'm speaking for myself.
A 24% wholesale tax on marijuana in the state meant to generate hundreds of millions of dollars in new road funding. The new tax has already sparked a lawsuit and has left some concerned that it will drive people to illegal markets.
Why would we increase penalties for folks that are operating outside of the regulations that exist when we are simultaneously pushing people out of the market and making it more likely that they will be operating outside of the legal regulations that currently exist?
Those supporting different parts of the package felt they would be helping those who follow the rules.
I cannot tell you how often I hear my members say, why is the state allowing them to continue operating after they've been caught bringing in illicit product? The answer is that our regulators do not currently have the tools that they need to shut them down.
Others still seemed open to the ideas.
I completely agree with Representative Dievendorf. The 24% tax was difficult, but I mean, this could definitely help those legal growers who are going to be paying it, because if I'm not mistaken, the black market won't be paying that tax.
Michigan may become the latest state to allow driver's licenses and digital ID cards to be added to phones. The legislation was recently introduced in the state Senate, and the Secretary of State's office has signaled it supports it. Arizona, Colorado, and Georgia already have this feature, and other states have passed legislation for digital IDs but haven't implemented a system yet. The state appeals court is ordering the Michigan House Speaker, Republican Matt Hall, to present 9 bills passed under the previous Democratic-controlled House to the governor's desk for her signature. The bills approved by the House at the end of the 2024 session were not sent to the governor. They include changes to government contributions to public employee health care. They allow corrections officers and other law enforcement personnel to take part in state police retirement programs and exempt some public assistance benefits from debt collection. And Governor Whitmer has signed an executive directive that she says will help young Michiganders find affordable housing in the state. The governor's office says it will build on existing housing programs, and it has 3 points. It will require the Michigan State Housing Development Authority to review its communications and marketing for clarity. It will also urge the agency to collaborate with regional housing partnerships. The directive also calls for better coordination between state agencies and the authority. The Whitmer administration says the authority expects to invest $1 billion into its home ownership programs. Local elections are set for communities across the state next week. After the break, we explain what could be on your ballot. And your voice, your vote, and the road to the 2026 midterm elections continues. A number of Republican candidates for governor were invited to a debate in Sparta this week to lay out their visions if chosen for the nomination and elected. According to MLive, Michigan Senate Minority Leader Eric Nesbitt, former Attorney General Mike Cox, former House Speaker Tom Leonard, Axe My Tax Executive Director Carla Wagner, Pastor Ralph Rabant, and business owner Anthony Hudson participated in the 3-round debate. The notable candidate reportedly missing was U.S. Representative John James, who instead appeared on Fox 2 Detroit for a one-on-one interview with Roop Raj. MLive reported that the candidates who participated in the debate found many points of common ground, with some or all agreeing on several policy ideas. Among those policies, nearly all in agreement on proposals to remove either the state income tax or property tax or both. Most candidates also agreed, MLive reported, on supporting possible requests by the Trump administration for the Michigan National Guard deployment at the southern U.S. border or even within Michigan. The education system was also reportedly discussed, with a specific focus on early grade reading proficiencies. The next GOP debate is slated for November 4th in Roseville. We are less than 1 week away from Election Day, and many West Michigan communities are having local elections. In Muskegon, alongside seats on the city commission, voters will also be choosing a mayor. We spoke with both candidates vying for the position. Smaller local elections can have a very big impact directly in the community where you live. And here in the city of Muskegon, the incumbent mayor is running on what he feels has been good progress, while a challenger is hoping to offer what he feels is something new. Many may agree the city of Muskegon has been on the move, but where it's been moving and where it should go next may depend on who you ask. Now these two men are vying to lead it. Local businessman Bob Garrettson and incumbent Mayor Ken Johnson. Why do you want to continue being the mayor? Why do you want to put in the effort? Why do you want to be the mayor of Muskegon? We spoke with both to hear what their priorities for the next term may be.
I love Muskegon, and I think that I can make a difference, and I want to do public service again.
I'm deeply committed and have a love for this community and wish to see it not just survive but thrive.
Both mentioned priorities including public safety, housing, and youth programs. But as voters prepare to make their final decision, where do these candidates feel the distinction lies?
When you look at the city commission meetings, it's not a place that is a good place for an exchange of ideas. And so I want the city commission to be more effective, and I want it to be addressing and surfacing the things that are important to this community, not the things that are important to a single individual.
It's a question we also asked his opponent.
The distinction is proven leadership, proven experience. It's work that we already are doing, and it's work that by many metrics we're doing well. We are making progress. Is it perfect? No. Have we hit 100% of the mark every time? No. Incremental progress is progress nonetheless.
But they both agree a local election like this carries with it a lot of importance.
City government and local government has such a profound effect and impact on our day-to-day lives, whether we know it or not.
Getting out to vote is the best way you can influence what is going to happen in this town in the next 4 years.
In addition to local candidates, communities could be expected to vote on a number of different ballot measures. Things like, for example, millages. You may have heard that word before, but what exactly does it mean? A millage is the use of property tax to fund public institutions like schools or a fire department. An example could be upgrades to school buildings. How is this amount determined? It's using mills. 1 mill equals $1 per $1,000 of taxable value. Now, there's 4 kinds of millages you could vote on. An operating millage is for day-to-day costs like salaries or general maintenance of a school district or city. A bond proposal is for large capital projects like building construction. A sinking fund millage is for long-term, large capital projects and are used to avoid interest on bonds. And finally, a specific service millage is for something specific, like for street lighting. Also remember to pay attention to whether the millage on your ballot is a homestead or non-homestead millage. The first is for a primary residence versus the latter, which is for a business or rental. Rates are lower for the first and higher for the second. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Head to 13onyourside.com/elections to find out if you have a millage to vote on in your community and information on other ballot items. After months of drawn-out contract negotiations, educators and officials in West Michigan's largest school district seem to have reached a breakthrough. The update on the negotiations, that's next. Grand Rapids Public Schools and its teachers union are one step closer to a new contract. They started the school year without a deal. But as of this week, the Grand Rapids Education Association says there are 4 tentative agreements between the union and the district. On Facebook, the association says the agreements are focused on teacher placement, the deduction of payroll dues, sick days, and professional development. They also agreed on the district's calendar for the school year. The main sticking point in the negotiations remained on teacher salaries. A unique effort to reduce gun violence among young people in Grand Rapids. The city's version of Shark Tank for ideas. This was pitch night for different groups to win $10,000 to implement their plans. 13 on Your Side's Nick Nelson reports on some of the ideas to bring about change.
Really, it's this opportunity to say, people who live on different streets and different communities, what are your ideas?
City Commissioner Melinda Yasasi and the rest of the Safe Alliance for Everyone City Task Force have been asking for community feedback on gun violence in the city for years. Monday night, several community organizations had the chance to show what they do to help keep guns out of the hands of young people. Troy Reeves' group provides job training for at-risk youth.
Once you're on the road and you're driving a lot, it's just you less time to get in trouble. So just trying to bring something to the youth to be able to stay busy, stay active, earn money, and able to start their own business as well.
Reeves, along with 4 others, were awarded $10,000 grants from the city to continue work on preventing gun violence. Duke Turley Jr. was another one, focused on youth mental health. He thanks the city for its support.
I think the city is doing a good job by not only allowing pilot programs, but being intentional about stability within programming. So this is a good start, and we got a lot of work to do for sure.
Many of the involved groups have worked together in the past, and grant recipients like Katrina Winston say it's now more important than ever that these nonprofits create a unified front to save lives.
When you are able to build those healthy relationships with other community partners, they have ideas and things too. Why not come together as a community to build something for everybody?
The winners say they'll use those funds for improving their operations, stipends, and outreach. For a full list of the 5 recipients, you can visit this story on our website, 13onyourside.com. And the Grand Rapids Art Museum is receiving $2 million from the state for infrastructure fixes because of green materials used during the facility's construction nearly 2 decades ago. Crain's Grand Rapids reports the building on Monroe Center needs about $7.3 million in critical infrastructure fixes. Those green materials helped the museum earn LEED Gold certification, the U.S. Green Building Council's second highest rating, making it the first art museum in the nation to receive that honor. But museum leaders say many of those materials were experimental, custom designed, and in some cases are no longer available. It's hard to sell something you can't see, touch, or is locked behind museum doors on federal property. That's a problem for Mark Lewanski, who won this year's art prize in Grand Rapids, but has faced that problem for the past 29 days during the government shutdown. 13 on Your Side's Micah Cho has more on the piece of art that no one can see.
After winning our prize, Mark Lewanski still doesn't have that much to show for it. I mean, his 4-foot by 10-foot, 400-pound weaved glass sculpture called Eras is still locked behind those doors at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. And he says he has to be ready for the call that when the government reopens so that he can take it out. And he says that'll take about 3 days by itself to do.
The piece is still under lock and key in the Ford Museum, and we're waiting for the government shutdown to end to have access to the artwork.
Well, Mark Lewanski now has bragging rights. After winning Art Prize 2025, he hasn't seen the piece that won it all since October 1st.
Having the piece locked away, we were still able to get enough, votes to win. So no complaints there. It didn't affect it.
Lewanski says the Ford Museum, which has been closed because of the federal government shutdown, has been helpful throughout the whole process. More than a dozen other pieces from Art Prize artists are still locked in the building as well.
There was nothing but positive vibes going from their whole team, and the space was amazing. And they've, worked with me every step of the way, through the shutdown and through all the turmoil, and they've been 100% great.
Eras is currently up for sale, but Lewanski, a Lansing area artist, says it's been hard to find a solid buyer with the 400-pound piece of art locked away.
It's impossible for me to do a showing or to, tell people about it and invite them in to see it because we just don't have access. So that's the one thing that is a little, it's difficult because I want to ride that momentum, winning the prize, and you want to kind of ride that momentum out and get the piece sold right away, and it's all on hold.
This video shows the 3-day process of getting it installed on the second floor. He says it's going to be another 2 or 3 days to get it out when the government opens up.
I think they want it removed pretty quickly along with the other art that is still in there. And I was speaking to the director within the last few days, and we're going to have access right away when the government opens.
For 13 on Your Side, I'm Micah Cho.
And that's the rundown for your week in Michigan politics. Be sure to keep up with all the top political stories of the day, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com.